will start by saying that if you'd like to jump to something specific, use the timestamps linked in the description. There's quite a bit of information in this video, so this is something that you might want to do. This video is also sponsored by DistroKid. If you are an independent artist or producer who potentially has a bunch of music, unreleased music, just sitting on your hard drive, release it, go with DistroKid. It's the easiest way to release your music. We'll be getting into reasons why later in this video. If you're interested in any of the gear mentioned in this video, consider using the affiliate links in the description. This channel is supported by you guys, and so I would really appreciate if you use those links. I make a small commission from that sale. Doesn't cost you anything extra. I've had the Octatrack for a while now. I'm finally digging into it as an effects mixer. So far, really into it. I'm coming from using the Model 1.4. I'm just gonna say it right off the top. The Model 1.4 is a better mixer. I like it better. It's a different thing. It's higher audio quality. I find that also it's just a bit more hands-on. It's obviously a bit bigger. The downside of the Model 1.4 is suddenly my setup like doubles in size because it's a much bigger unit than the Octatrack. And then over top of that, I would like to have like a master effects unit, possibly like the Octatrack, over top of using the Model 1.4. And also using it with this setup is a little bit redundant because I have all of my volume control with these faders right here on the TR-8S. Compact setups, we all like the idea of a compact setup that could do a lot of things. And the compact to capability ratio in this setup, I think is the best that I've seen so far. But it's not perfect. Nothing is perfect. I'm sad about it. We're doing beat music here today, surprise, and all of the samples that I'm working with are original. A lot of them at this point are available to download on my Patreon, so go check that out if you like what you hear. And this is like a 50-50 split right down the middle hybrid setup. We're using Ableton as the brain of the operation, just in terms of all the sonic information, all the samples. But we're actually using the Octatrack as the MIDI clock in this example. We'll get into the reason why later in this video. The TR-8S just keeps popping up into my content for good reason. This thing is an absolute beast. I'm using it in this case as an audio interface. I'm also playing some standalone sounds on these voices over here. And then these voices, these 5 are controlling everything that's happening in Ableton. I have control over different effects with these knobs. We'll look into that. And then volume for each of those tracks. And funny enough, the TR-8S actually works perfectly with my favorite mixer, the Model 1.4 as well, because there are 8 outs here. There's 4 stereo ins with the Model 1.4, so it's like a perfect fit. And if you're using Ableton, it just completely eliminates the need of having to carry a separate audio interface to route into an analog mixer like the Model 1.4. In terms of audio routing through Ableton, when I play the track, you can see that it kind of skips a little bit. That's because Ableton needs to catch up with the Octatrack. Kick on track 1. This is a 909 kick throughout the entire session. Over top of that, I have drums. So that's outputs 1, 2 coming from Ableton. And then everything else is going through output 3, 4. So that's these 3 voices here. So bass and the synth parts as well. And as I mentioned, I have some standalone drums here as well. I could actually change these on the fly, which is really cool. I could like switch out different drums, different drum fills. Maybe I want a 909 instead of an 808. Right, so there's so much that I could do here. 2, 1, 2, transition. Really, this thing, the TR-8S, is just an absolute f***ing beast. I know that it's like over 5 years old now, but it's totally relevant still today. I think it's still one of the best pieces of gear out today. Here's a deep dive specifically on using it with Ableton, by the way. So that's all going into the TR-8S, audio from the TR-8S into Octatrack. The drums are being routed to A, B, and everything else is routed to C, D. It's really useful to have that separation because there are some effects within this effects template on the Octatrack that will just affect A, B, so the drums, and or CD, the melodic part. I'm not going to get into how these effects are set up within the Octatrack. There's someone out there who is really like the man for that sort of content. If you're watching this video, there's a good chance that you already know who this guy is, EasyBot. I downloaded several of his templates directly from his Patreon as well, so that's what we're going to be working with today. Just in terms of organization and how I've approached and reorganized this template for my own workflow, I believe there's 64 effects in this particular template, so they're organized in space, build, crush, as well as party. Obviously, I don't want to like menu dive through all of these 64 effects. That would just be way too much during a performance. I think that 16 effects to jump through is enough. In a live setting, I just have very easy access to the effects that I want to use here. So I just, select A and jump to the effects. Here's how I've organized them. Play. The first 4 effects are kind of spacey. Right, so they all sound pretty similar. This one's a little bit different. This one has like a build quality to it. 1, 2, 3, The next 4 are spacey as well, but they have more of like an intense build quality to them. Also great for transitions. Everything here is great for transitions. 8 is like a straight up 16th note kind of build. And so whatever it latches onto, that's what it's gonna build with. So if I throw a snare in there and a clap, let's say, here we go. There it is. 2, 1, 2, 3, These next 4 are a bit more on like the high pass, low pass sort of territory. Right, so that's a low pass, another kind of low pass thing. High pass, low pass, high pass. I'll probably end up doing some more reorganization here, but I'm trying to categorize the effects in groups of 4. And essentially what I've done is I've gone through this template, gone through all 64 effects, and basically just copy pasted the ones that I like that are kind of similar into these categories. Just based on what you've heard, I'd love to hear your guys' opinions on these examples. Let us all know in the comments. Plugging in EasyBot's template into a session and getting familiar with the effects is one thing. I actually sent EasyBot the previous version of this video before releasing, and he had mentioned that there was quite a few things missing, things that I didn't mention the Octatrack can do in this demonstration. So naturally I had to book a session with him to sort of fill in the blanks, and here's what he showed us.
We can record an 8-bar loop here, which is really powerful. Check this out. So it's currently recording. You can see it happening. It'll finish after 8 bars and start looping immediately. I can crossfade over to it. You can't hear the difference. I completely crossfaded.
That's so cool.
Right? I'm now in a loop, and I can do whatever I want. I could have the cue outs going to a pair of headphones, and I could listen to these boxes while you listen to this, just like a DJ mixer, like a good DJ mixer. Mm-hmm. But we could like mute some sounds, bring some new sounds in, and then fade back over, or we could use an effect to do it, or we can just fade back over. We could just go. Still the same song. So I'm just making the pattern bigger, last a lot longer.
So would you say there's like basically 3 actions that you're doing in this case? You're like sampling in real time, and then you're fading over to that side, and then you would bring up an element or take out an element, and then I guess the third action would be using effects to transition into the next part or next, whatever. That's more or less what you're doing?
Pretty much. So I'd say like that's a good way of putting it. I would say the first action would be that you record. The second action would be that you modulate either the machines directly or the effects directly. Either one, you pick. It's going to record all of your actions that you take.
Yeah.
Then you crossfade to the live recording, and during that process, you use that downtime to change your sounds, open up new sounds, take sounds away, and you can either use an effect to leave that process, or you can just simply crossfade back over. Or you could transition to a whole nother song from that point. You could even, because it's time stretched in the recordings, we could actually... Do I want to go to a song that's at a slower tempo?
Now that you've gotten an idea of how it sounds as an effects mixer, here's my take. As I'm sure you already know, this is one of the most difficult things in terms of stringing a bunch of sequences or scenes together. If builds aren't built into the audio of your track, it's something that's really tricky to be on top of, and the Octatrack is surely one of the best units in the game for this sort of thing. But as you may or may not know, I'm coming from the RMX 1000, which is another effects unit. It's actually pretty much solely an effects unit. Here's a full dedicated video on that. Maybe it's because I haven't spent enough time with it yet, but my first impression is that the Octatrack kind of lacks in the building part of the transition. Personally, I want a little bit more. I want like more of a valley going into that next section, and the Octatrack doesn't really bring me there. There's also a bit of a problem depending on your setup with the Octatrack as an effects mixer, in particular when it's not the MIDI brain. The Octatrack wants to be the clock leader, and when it's synced with non-elektron gear in particular, things kind of get a little bit glitchy. So that's not too much of a problem, just use it as the master timekeeper. But in particular, if you're using Ableton, there's some reasons why you might want to use it as the clock master. For whatever reason, obviously, first off, when you start the pattern, that's a little bit annoying, but it's not such a big deal. But my standalone TR-8S drums, right now they seem to be pretty much in time, but the clock sways a little bit. There's also a little bit of a latency for whatever reason, whereas I didn't have that issue running it with Ableton. And of course, what a surprise, if you sync the Octatrack to any other elektron gear, you obviously don't run into any of these issues. The sync is perfect. I don't want to turn this into a comparison video, but going back to the RMX 1000, you can't sync to MIDI, but it does have tempo detect, which is very accurate, especially with this type of music where the kick is just giving it to you. And for that very reason, you don't need to worry about any sort of sync issues with the RMX 1000. And by the way, if you'd like me to do a comparison between those two units, the Octatrack as an effects mixer along with the RMX 1000, that would actually be a great comparison to make, to do a bit more of a deep dive on that. Let me know. Going back to my feeling about wanting more from these effects transitions from the Octatrack, let's look into some practical solutions for this. But before that, a bit more about DistroKid and why they are the best music distribution platform, especially for independent artists and producers. There's a discount linked in the description of this video, which I encourage you to use. It's just over $20 a year to release unlimited music to all major streaming platforms. The thing that makes DistroKid amazing for independent artists is just the sheer amount of free promotional tools that they offer us. There is now a DistroKid iOS app, so you can check out your stats and information on your smartphone. Personally, one of my favorite free promotional tools is Hyperfollow, which is essentially a free link and bio link. I've been using it for years now to lead people to specific pages and help fund what it is that I do. And you could claim as many Hyperfollow pages as you'd like, free of charge. Just over $20 a year to release unlimited music. You keep 100% of your streaming earnings as well, which is another great deal. If you're an independent artist, to me, it's just a no-brainer. Join the team. There's over 1 million users using DistroKid, so yeah. Join us. At this point, if you're on the same page as me, what is the solution? For me, it's to not rely too much on the Octatrack for transition effects. This is something that goes for any effects unit that you're using. Don't rely 100% on it. I do find that it's a necessary addition for a live set like this, but combining and using effects from other parts, in this case in Ableton, and combining that with the Octatrack for transitions, that might do the trick. Seeing as I do have control over individual instruments through the TR-8S right here. Maybe something as simple as just throwing some reverb and delay on the drums. Like maybe on that rim, that one right there. Right, so that just sort of gooses it along and brings you into that next transition. A little bit more motion. Another thing I noticed about this particular effects here, 8, it's like a 16th note thing, and it seems to latch on to whatever it hears, right? So if I throw a snare into there, right, so that gives me a bit more of a lift. What if I did the same thing but with tons of delay on that snare? We'll go back to this pattern here. Another effects I use a lot is fade to gray, so we could actually do that on the bass just to hear that. So what could we do with that? That'd be cool to combine that with something else. We'll find something. There's also the mentality of if you can't go big, just go small. Like maybe you don't want that many peaks and valleys in your set. Like this, you don't want it to sound like a DJ set, but there's something in between where I want to sit. I want there to be nice peaks and valleys, but not too intense. With electronic music, it's really true that the gear that you use, it shapes the type of music that you create, especially with a hardware setting like this. These Octatrack effects are really smooth and they still do have a built-in quality. Maybe this is just the sound that you're going for. It really depends on what you're looking for, and hopefully this video pointed you in the right direction. Thank you guys so much for being here. Affiliate links are linked in the description. And again, all of the samples that you're hearing here are 100% original. Most of them are available on my Patreon as well. So if you'd like to check that out, go ahead. So far, having a lot of fun with the Octatrack. Really enjoy exploring this thing. Can't wait to do some more. And yeah, see you guys soon. Bye.